Giving you a preview of some Week 1 games. So it's been a good little run for Tennessee since Josh Heupel came in as head coach. Now entering his 5th season there on Rocky Top, the Volunteers have had 30 wins in the past 3 seasons, the most in a 3-season span in a quarter of a century. Last year going 10-3, making it to the playoff. Eventually, though, losing to Ohio State in the quarterfinals. Here's more from the head coach on where he thinks his team is right now.
I like, who they are, how they compete, how they've grown. You're at the point in the year. We've got to prepare extremely well this week and get ready to go play. And, game ones, there's a lot of unknowns as far as what you're seeing from the other side of the ball, their personnel, all of those things. You got to be able to, communicate and adjust quickly and well during the course of a football game. But I like this team that we have, and they've handled themselves with great maturity. They've been extremely competitive. They've continued to grow. We need to do that this week and then go play.
So let's welcome back in Shahan Jayaraja, now joined by Richard Johnson. This game, noon Eastern on Saturday in Atlanta. It's going to be great there. Let's go with the expectations, though, because we've had this kind of bizarre quarterback switch between UCLA and Tennessee. Nico Iamaleava, we talked about that, going from Tennessee to UCLA. Joey Aguilar now going from UCLA to Tennessee. Got that all out, though. Shahan, what are his expectations there on Rocky Top?
Yeah, they're high, right? This is a team that was built to go back to the college football playoff in so many ways, and they made a bold gamble by letting Nico Iamaleava walk to UCLA. Now, Joey Aguilar comes in as a quarterback who threw for a lot of yards at Appalachian State and also dealt with turnover issues. He was a 10-plus interception guy last year, and that won't cut it in this Tennessee offense. This was a team last year that was really able to lean on their running game and their defense, and while the defense should still be pretty good, Dylan Sampson is now in the NFL, so they're going to need him to produce right away, and this is a big moment for him on national television.
Yeah, Sean, I have deep questions about this Tennessee team coming into this season. Quite frankly, I think Tennessee got away with it last year. I think Oklahoma in the beginning of the year showed a blueprint for how to beat this Tennessee team that Arkansas, frankly, took and paid off in their game when those two teams played. But other than that, I thought Tennessee skated by the, last season, and then it finally caught up to them against Ohio State in the college football playoff. I think Tennessee's identity has significantly shifted from the one of the Hendon Hooker era just a few years ago. People think they're going to see an offense that's going to light up the scoreboard and put up 50 points. That's not who this team is. Quite frankly, I think they're transitioning into a team that runs the ball effectively and plays better defense, not necessarily what you think you may get when you see that wide open offense on the field.
So, Richard, let me ask you this. What about Josh Heupel? As I mentioned, look, he's going into what I think his 5th season there, or is it 6th? I can't count. Either way, I think it's 5th. One appearance in the college football playoff. They were knocked out by Ohio State, so that's great, and they have been better. But where do they need to get to for his job to stay secure?
As far as Josh Heupel is concerned, the greatest coaches adapt over their tenure. And I think Josh Heupel, like I just said, is doing that right now. I think they're trying to find ways to tweak this system to get into the next era. I think defenses are daring that Tennessee offense to waltz down the field, and then they're going to compress the space when that team gets in the red zone, and they're going to make that Tennessee team score touchdowns. They were unable to do that at a high clip last season, but again, their defense was able to bail them out. Complementary football, it's a thing that we like to talk about when we talk about great NFL teams on Sunday. I think Tennessee's identity is changing, and I think it's a credit to Josh Heupel as a former quarterback, former offensive coordinator, a guy who loves, I'm sure, to score 45 points a game, to be able to see, hey, my football team does a certain thing well, we need to lean into that and not try to fit a square peg into a round hole.
Here's the irony, though, is that I think that the future of this tenure might actually depend on whether they're able to get something going in the passing game. I think that when you talk about the old veer and shoot offense that Baylor made famous in the 2010s, that's out. It's been figured out in so many ways, especially in the passing game, and they're so personnel dependent for those wide splits and deep shots to work. So will Josh Heupel try to mix things up in the passing game? Will he try to bring in maybe some more traditional concepts, some spread concepts, some West Coast concepts concepts. I think that that's going to be a really interesting transition for him, and especially when you've got a quarterback in Joey Aguilar who isn't necessarily a big-time player, who's not necessarily going to go out and make things out of nothing. I think that it becomes dependent on a coach whether they can step up and adjust to those circumstances. So, Richard mentioned it. This was a team that got away with it to a large extent last year. It's time to kind of figure out, will Josh Heupel be able to take that next step as an offensive schemer and play caller as well?
All right, let's go to the other color, orange, on the other side. Let's talk about Syracuse, second season under Fran Brown. I mean, talk about a turnaround here, taking them to a 10-3 season. This is, by the way, their first game against an SEC opponent since, 2017 when they went against LSU. Richard, was that just a flash in the pan, or can they continue that success?
I do think this year the schedule is going to be pretty tough for Syracuse. A lot of their hardest games are on the road. It's going to make things difficult. Obviously, Kyle McCord is not the quarterback anymore. You're bringing in Steve Angeli. You thought it was going to be Ricky Collins, and then they bring Angeli in after spring, and they make him the starting quarterback. I got a chance to go visit Fran Brown about a month ago and sat with him. He is an incredibly refreshingly authentic guy. He is himself. I mean, we talked about saving money and not going on vacation. We talked about 50 Cent and the album Get Rich or Die Trying, and that helped Fran, literally helped him get through college and get out of JUCO when he was a young man. But I think what he brings to this Syracuse team is he's got a CEO 30,000-foot approach. He lets his coordinators, Jeff Nixon and Elijah Robinson, cook. And cook they did last year. Again, they were the most prolific passing attack in college football. I don't know that they'll be that good throwing the ball this year, but I do think Fran is really adept at letting his coordinators figure out over the course of the year what they do best. That's why I'm really curious about how this Syracuse team stacks up. And obviously, the challenge is high week one.
Yeah, and you look at that group of assistant coaches, all of them were members of Matt Rule's staff at Baylor and at Temple before that. So, I mean, these are guys who have a lot of familiarity with each other, who really know how to set a physical culture in so many ways. And I think that Fran Brown is the type of coach who just makes people believe in a big way. Now, getting back to 10 wins, I think that's going to be very difficult just with the schedule that they have, including, by the way, going and playing Tennessee in week one. But I think that this is a team that's being overlooked in too many cases as well. Steve Angeli comes in, and I think that his situation reminds me so much of Kyle McCord off of last year, where you saw these flashes, you saw these moments, but you kind of need to see whether he's able to step up in that moment. I didn't like that they lost Trevor Pena to the transfer portal at wide receiver, but they brought in Jonte Cook, who they're really excited about. Apparently, he's been a great addition to that room, and he's really kept his nose clean since getting on campus. So this is a team that I think, again, is undervalued heading into the year, and I would not be surprised if they're once again pushing for 8+ wins.
Okay, so 2 10-3 teams going against one another. Let's go with game prediction. What do you guys think? Shahan, we'll start with you.
Well, the line right now is close to 2 touchdowns, and to me that's a little ridiculous. I think that Syracuse is very much going to be in this game, and this is not the Tennessee of last season even. Like, they're not as dynamic in the running game. They're not as consistent on the offensive line, and I'll be curious to see whether they can maintain some of the defensive production that they had in 2024. So I think Syracuse is going to be able to get after them. I think they definitely cover. I think Tennessee ultimately pulls away at the end and is able to just kind of put this one away, but I don't count out Syracuse. I think that they are a legitimate team heading into 2025, and I expect this to be a 1-score game in the fourth quarter.
Syracuse 2-0 last year as a double-digit underdog, the only team that did that. But I do not think they win this straight up. I do think they cover, though. However, they cover that big number that Shahan just talked about. And I do think you get a little bit more of a defensive struggle than you may think. I'm also kind of liking the under, Shahan. I think this goes under.
Guys, we appreciate it. Enjoy all of the games. 17 tonight, definitely more over the weekend as college football week 1 gets underway.